some have flowers hanging down. They all go on forever, but I see them different now. As I sit in the driver's seat in silence, I believe in angels as me and Mama cried. We knew there was one with you on 288 that night. I say a prayer every time I see a sign of the road memory, 'cause it reminds me of what I've lost. Well, you could have been across. anymore for fear that it might offend. Ignorance ain't always bliss, and if we just ignore it, we might end up repeating history again. Seems like the whole world has gone crazy. The line between right and wrong is getting hazy. And every time you turn on the news, everything is black and blue. Some folks matter, other folks don't. We can all try to be friends, but that would make too much sense. So I guess we'll settle for being bruised, 'cause everything is black and blue. I wanna know when the whole wide world said it was okay to hate your neighbor just 'cause you ain't the same. And I still don't understand how they can blame the gun and not the man who decided to hurt someone. Some think putting criminals on death row ain't right. Killing an unborn child is just fine. Every time you turn on the news, everything is black and blue. Some folks matter, other folks don't. We could all try to be friends, but that would make too much sense. So I guess we'll settle for being bruised, 'cause everything is black and blue. We don't always have to like one another. Working together is the only way to make a change for the better. Every time you turn on the news, everything is black and blue. Some folks matter and other folks they don't. We could all try to be friends, but that would make too much sense. So I guess we'll settle for being bruised, 'cause everything is black and blue. You always love the lights of the city. This town's never enough to keep you happy. I didn't argue the day you turned 18, 'cause I knew you'd never miss a girl like me. I wish you would come back, come back. Do you remember all the times we had? I can't believe you finally found the nerve to leave.
キーを回してきてくれるかい？かわいそうに。いいんだ。が悪いんじゃないんだよ。
All right, mic check. Can you hear me now? Mic check, 1, 2. There we go. All right, now where are we? She took the kittens into her arms and ran into the mountains to her grandfather's house. Fighting back the welling tears, she burst into her grandfather's workshop. Her grandfather was a magician who could do anything. She had never seen magic. She knew that magic was a fantasy straight out of fairy tales, but so was her grandfather. She had to find him. He was the only one who could help. I suppose you want me to alter this kitten's face? The cave-dwelling magician said indifferently. The kitten needs our help, she pleaded. Whether it was a simple task or Herculean labor, her grandfather would not say. He simply granted the girl's childish wish like a machine. He saved the kitty! This still doesn't answer why I can't hear my game. Oh no. get the burger. I sit here have no idea. I can't hear my game. If I check 1, 2. Nope, that doesn't solve anything. That only takes away my mic. Tears she had fought so hard to hold back poured from her eyes. Regret spread through her chest like an endless gray sky. We were too late. Some things cannot be undone. Her mind struggled to come to grips with what had just occurred. The last 10 minutes were a total blank. Who she met, what she had known, it was all as if it never happened. The only thing she was sure of was that life, once extinguished, can never return. Is somebody there? That day, it was her mistake that gave birth to me. Indeed. Whatever occurred that day, it was a day of nostalgia and longing. This is the fairy tale of 8 years ago, the day we first met, that no magic can ever bring back. Arrogant, greedy, and able to only destroy, it must be a wolf. I don't have regrets. There's no looking back. If my pride had left you behind, my sincere condolences. But at any rate, I suppose it's my fate to die at the hands of Little Red Riding Hood. It was a quiet morning. From her bed, she could see the sky was an ashen watercolor gray. The thermometer displayed 43 degrees Fahrenheit, a rather unforgiving temperature for November. Yeah, she's from Colorado. Her stomach woke her up with a growl, pathetically reminding her that she had completely missed breakfast. But lazy mornings like today were, for her, a blessing. It was already well past 8 in the morning. On any ordinary weekday, tardiness would be unavoidable, but today classes were canceled in commemoration of the school's anniversary. Thinking outside the windows were a gloomy gray, and it reminded her more of evening than morning. It wasn't a pleasant morning, but any stretch of the imagination. Having been up all night until just 3 hours ago, she couldn't care less about the weather outside. All she cared about was more sleep. As long as she could spend her morning in bed, which was what was happening outside was of no concern to her. She shut the curtains, then closed her eyes and tried to let sleep reclaim her. I'd like to have an uneventful dream for 2 hours, thank you. Blissful slumber found her soon enough. Her consciousness faded. However, somebody get the phone! Her simple request would be mercilessly refused. A faint but shrill sound lingered in her ears. It was the unmistakable ring of the telephone. Much to her chagrin? Their choice of words is weird. Oh, come on. Why today of all days? The telephone was situated in the foyer of the first floor. Answering it meant getting down a 30-foot corridor and going down a flight of stairs. In her sleep-deprived state, that distance seemed somewhere between incredibly far and astronomically far. The phone's insistent ringing continued. She knew the caller would eventually give up if she ignored it, but she chose to fight the urge. Why doesn't Alice answer it? She thought her housemates would get it, but she soon had to abandon all hope. The realization struck that her housemate did not have the day off from school, and was likely in class at her prestigious little hilltop academy. The caller proved incredibly persistent. I'm trying to sleep here. She was left with no choice but to get up, throw a top on, and leave the room. God, it's cold. She rubbed her hands together to warm her numb fingers. The mansion's heating system was inadequate, to say the least, which meant that winter was the very worst of uninvited guests. Never more so than on a dreary morning as this, when one didn't need to use a thermometer to know how cold it was. The mansion sat in the mountains and was surrounded by a dense forest. Winters always arrived here first before moving on to nearby towns. The robotic ring of the telephone reverberated through the long hallway. The mansion's furnishing had been perfectly maintained, and it made the place feel unlived. It seemed lonelier than it did splendid. Coupled with the dreary morning, it could have passed for a haunted house. So a witch. Well, it is a haunted house, I suppose. It's too large for just the two of us. She counted more than 30 rings since it first began. The caller either had a lot of free time on their hands or had a good understanding of the house's circumstances. She had a strong hunch it was the latter. The window above looked out onto a gloomy sky. She hastened to catch the unrelenting ring in the act as soon as possible, though she had a feeling that her happy morning might come to a close the moment she caught it. It was here that a series of incidents began. Apologies for the lack of romance in this tale, for whether it is objectively true or merely I'm not even going to try. It is always from gloomy and unassuming beginnings that extraordinary events are set in motion. I'm going to be right back. Alright, now I can hear my game. Monitor off. There we go. Much better. Which means you can turn down. I'm not using the TV as a monitor anymore. So how's everyone doing? I've been kind of waiting the past 2 months to get back into this. I didn't want to start until the new year, honestly. I assumed everybody was busy with the holidays. I know I was. Whoever decides to be open on Christmas, I just have choice words for you. That's all I'm going to say. There's a time and a place. And if you're going to call America a Christian nation, then you need to at least act like it. There we go. Much better. Alright, we'll skip the graphics. Boop. The rain had subsided somewhat. By the time she reached the school, the sunlight seemed playing peekaboo behind them. Not that it has anything to do with me, though. The weather reflected her luck. Mine too! Mine too! Not the one outside. On top of being forced out of the house at such an early hour, she had to suffer through a winter rain. I'm getting such a bad feeling about this. The sinking feeling she had only grew as she passed through the entrance and headed inside. Wait, today's her day off and she has to go to school. That's just mean. You can't wait like 24 hours. She didn't encounter any other students along the way. Yeah, because it's your day off. Nor did she see anyone taking part in the club activities either. reception desk to the faculty room simply read, "Faculty closed." The school had given all of its students the day off, except for her. Except for those explicitly summoned like her. A fact that irked her more and more as the minutes passed. She opened the door of the faculty room and headed towards the desk she had visited a number of times before. The man at the desk wore a plain shirt and a suit that were nonetheless neatly pressed. Slim flat-framed glasses adorned his face, giving off an amicable yet cunning air. The mild-mannered image this mid-20s man presented clashed with the cigarette he smoked. He didn't appear to have noticed her yet. So does this take place in the 80s, the 50s, or what? Yamashiro-sensei. She closed the door with a bang. Showing no response to the sudden sound, Mr. Yamashiro lifted his head.
Yeah.
Hey there. Good morning, Miss Aozaki. I guess that means you have to call. Yes, they called me at home about an hour ago. Out of the blue. Having graduated from this high school himself, Mr. Yamashiro was not much older than the rest of the students. For that reason, the students preferred him over the other teachers. He always had something interesting to talk about, and he kept conversations casual. In fact, he seemed more like an older student than a teacher, but she unfortunately didn't share her fellow students' fondness of him. She was of the opinion that teachers should come across as more asutere, like an iron fist that could inspire both love and hate in equal measure, not a buddy to joke and pal around with. He was the exact opposite of how she felt a teacher should be. It was only natural that her manner towards him would be forced and unfriendly. Not that she'd ever been wired to make friendly small talk. You're in a foul mood today. You must be imagining it. I'm like this every day. The fact of the matter of the fact answer perfectly matched the displeasure displayed on her face. Her bad mood from having to get up early and the tiredness from staying up late must have collectively made her look positively adversarial. If you say so, just go easy on our guest, okay? To be honest, we're not completely sure how to deal with him yet. About that, do you want to tell me what the hell is going on? Because I have no clue. As Mr. Yamashiro met her piercing eyes, he finally understood the reason behind her tone and slowly put out a cigarette. Let's start at the beginning. What did they tell you over the phone? Just that I'd be introduced to a transfer student. They were a little hazy on the rest, though. When Mr. Yamashiro's eyebrows stood up, impressed by the brevity of her answer. He could see that she was angry, not because she had been called to school on her day off, but because she had been told why she was here. No! She should be mad that she's also getting called in! Mr. Yamashiro chuckled sympathetically. If this was all a joke to you, perhaps I should just go home. Wait, I didn't mean to laugh. This is not a particular joke. He could really use your help. So there really is a transfer student? Yes, but he has, how should I put it, difficult circumstances. His name is Sojudo, and he's a bit peculiar, so we thought someone around the same age would be the best suited to show him the ropes. She threw him an unamused look. It was negligent of them to be pushing teachers' duties on her, but she did wonder how exactly this transfer student was peculiar. Maybe he meant the student had behavioral problems or was difficult somehow. But peculiar? She didn't have the slightest idea what that meant. You don't hear a teacher call someone that every day. She had her doubts, but swept them aside for now. This wasn't the time to get distracted by more concerns. The fact remained that this conversation was all the peculiar she could handle. She needed more information. She was already beginning to fantasize about saying no and curling up her womb. I have a question. Hi. He's a second-year student like you. He's well-behaved and a good listener. He's not the most energetic individual, but that just means he'll be easier to get along with, right? He's not in the same homeroom class as you, but I'm sure you'll get along just
そういったことは本人から
I'll
直
be
接
the
聞き
judge of
ます
that when I actually
わかり
meet him.
そうではなくなぜ私なんでしょう
And none of that answered my question. Why me? Though her tone was still stern, it was clear that she was willing to cooperate. She had decided to put her feelings of dissatisfaction aside and focus on the task at hand. Forcing herself to act empathetic in spite of her self-absorbed nature was something she was used to. Paradoxically, this force of will was also the reason teachers put so much faith in her. To a point. After times that strength shattered expectations, and on those occasions, they were left with no choice but to treat it like a natural disaster, weather it until it was past. That was how Mr.
も
Yamashiro...
う一度だけ聞きます
I'll ask you one more time, Mr. Yamashiro.
それで
Why
な
does
ぜ
it have to be
私なん
me?
でしょうか
Asking the real questions. Why me? Pressured by the question without a clear yes or no answer, he answered,
それはね
Well, about
別
that.
に青崎くん
You're
が先生
probably
方
thinking
に
it's
提案
because
さ
you're
れてい
the
るのと
iron-fisted
同じぐらい
ruler of the
信
student
頼され
council
て
and
い
are willing to
て
strike
学校
down
のた
both
めなら
teacher and
教師
student for the
生徒
good
も
of the
一緒
school.
くたに切って捨てる
But you'd be
鉄の
wrong.
生徒会長
それ以外にこんな
I
呼
can't
びつけを
imagine
受け
any
る理
other
由は
reason
ない
you'd
と思
call
うんです
me.
けど
Her eyes did nothing to hide her disbelief as she glared at him. Strength far beyond that ordinary 17-year-old girl, coupled with the youthful beauty of me. Mr. Yamashiro let it slip, a genuine smile admiring miraculous balance of qualities.
いや責務だけでいいなら
I
僕が
mean,
やってるさ
I'd handle this myself if it was just about pure obligation, but who gets this job has nothing to do with whether they're a teacher or on the student council.
こんな頼み
I
を
just
損得
felt you
抜
were
きで
the
聞いて
only
くれる
one
の
who
は
would entertain this
君
kind
だ
of
けだと思って
request without needing to weigh all
責任で
sides.
すから
That's why I
強く推薦
insisted
したわ
it
け
to be you. In other words, he knew she wouldn't say no. Bro. You're acting like a manager. He wouldn't say no. I'll give him a call. I know it's his day off. He'll even do it for free. I won't pay overtime.
山城先生
Yamashiro sensei?
怖っ
Oh
もう
dear.
睨まない
Would you
睨ま
stop
ない
glaring at me like that already? At least put on a smile for your new schoolmate.
誰に
No!
は言って まあ
Just gonna slap the shit out of
納
him.
得してくれたならすぐに移動しろ
Look, if you're agreeing to help, we should go see him. We've already kept him waiting long enough as it is.
雨の中ご苦労
Because you
様
braved the rain to get here, I'd be happy to give you a ride home. Mr. Yamashiro stood up gracefully. I'm good, thanks, she replied before turning and walking out of the faculty room. He had been waiting for about an hour. While he did, the rain shower lightened into a drizzle. His mind wandered as he listened to the sound of the raindrops. The room was filled with neatly arranged rectangular tables, and was the only one there. Quite some time had passed since he had been brought to this room and asked to wait. Even the best-behaved students might have grown dissatisfied or anxious with the situation by now, but the boy stuck to his spot like a scarecrow. He was chilled to the bone. It was the end of November, and the low temperature in the morning had marked the start of winter. The room was not much warmer. The heater had been turned on. Either he'd missed the teacher telling him to turn it on, or he'd never seen one in his life. $50 says he's never seen a heater. $50 says he's never seen a heater. He breathed lightly on his freezing fingers as he aimlessly surveyed his surroundings. This dreary place was apparently a meeting room. The other students might have considered it a wonderful place to meet, but to him it was a drab and overly spacious. It was a lifeless place that reminded him of an arid cave. Stuck in this cold room with absolutely nothing to do, his mind turned what they wanted to discuss. Unable to come up with a solid answer, he returned his attention to the sound of the rain. The rain hardly resembled a rain in the mountains, though he could still recognize it barely. The smell of sound were harsher, but at the end of the day, rain was still rain. So even the world, alien as it was, could have something in common with the mountains. That trivial detail perked him up a little. He liked how the town looked soaked in rain. Naturally, he preferred sunny weather, but he liked the rain on its own way. The fog from the rain had soaked up the scent of the soil, and it reminded him of home. It was times like these that he was able to numb the anxiety the city gave him. But then he let out a discouraged sigh. How pathetic. He'd already been here 2 weeks and thought his hometown was still made him sad. Perhaps feeling that he was being unfair to his new life, he composed himself and continued to wait patiently. As if having a passion for distractions, his attention returned to the sound of the rain once more. Waiting like this didn't seem particularly hard for him. He quietly endured the numbing cold and the hour alone with calm, deep breaths. And the saying goes, good things come to those who wait. Yeah, because they get the scraps. A strong point of his or not, he was astonishingly patient. It was certainly helping him out in this moment. It's okay. It's okay that you're not chatting. Honestly, I saw Warframe. I was not sure how I felt about it. I'm tired of the FPS shooters, honestly. I grew up playing them. I'm now more story-driven. That's why I'm playing this game. I got told it was a good story. If Zero and UBW tells me anything, it better be. Because those were decent. Those were pretty good. Misa likey. The profile of the transfer student had been explained to her on her way to the meeting room. She was told he had lived his whole life up in the mountains without any electricity. Never seen a heater! Never seen a heater! Dude has never seen a heater before in his life. That meant more than half of civilized society would have been an utter mystery to him. What a miserable level of isolation. How is this even possible in post-war Japan? It's like Robinson Crusoe. She had every right to be angry. Yeah! She's got to basically introduce him to society. Her village had apparently remained isolated in the mountains for many years. Contact with villages in the foothills and the mountains had only occurred once a month or so, which was unfathomable in modern Japan. Although expressways in Japan Rail, the old national railways now, span the country like arteries, it wasn't entirely impossible for mountain villages like his to exist. But she couldn't imagine how someone born to such circumstances would think or live. When you say no electricity, you mean in general, right? Like he must have had access to a public phone. Apparently not. He mentioned how shocked he was by the phones when he started living here. I know someone like that, actually. I kid you not, he said. Wow, telephones are so useful. She shot him a sidelong glare his way as he laughed. It seemed that naivety on the country boy had cheered up Mr. Yamashita a bit. They probably didn't have police officers either. My family home is up in the mountains, so it's not inconceivable they wouldn't have electricity. But he doesn't even know what school is? Nope. He heard of them, but this is apparently his first time visiting one. Maybe that's why he's nervous. He wasn't very talkative. He's almost, what would you call it, feral, like a boy raised by wolves. Suppose that makes this a safari. Hey, you're scaring me, Aozaki. I was joking. Go easy, okay? Somebody needs to smack some sense into this teacher real fast. Aozaki, please do. Because he's got it coming. Slap the teacher. Just turn that ring around and don't worry, I got the feeling from talking to him that he's a nice kid. He was almost like, I don't know, a cute little animal that doesn't speak human.
山城先生、その例え、気休めになってませんから。
Your jokes and metaphors aren't helping. As she gave him a blunt reply, she tried to stimulate in her mind what life without electricity would be like. But the thought of it took her sour mood from bad to worse. After all, it was a world she had never known. She could understand why the teachers had given up. So they assign it to a student. She too wanted to give up and return to her warm bed, but her good-for-nothing pride was holding her hostage. Not only did the teachers believe she was up to the task, but she also believed she could do it. It wasn't that easy to go back on her word, no matter how bad things looked after the fact. She walked along the hallway, the rain pattering in the background. The meeting room was already in sight. With a furrowed brow, she fixed her long hair in anticipation of meeting the unknown stranger within. Her elegant strides were like those of a confident general going into battle. Aozaki, I believe in you and all, but I'll say it again. Be nice, okay? Can you at least try to smile? No! The answer is no! I'm bad at faking smiles, but I'll do my best. Really? That's a relief. I really mean it. It's good to know you're not good at everything. Mr. Yamashita's shoulders slumped the second they reached the meeting room. As he put his hand on the door, his eyes seemed to say to her, "Be nice, please." This only made her more irritated. I already know I'm not the friendliest looking person in the world, but I can't just make myself smile at the drop of a hat. If they wanted somebody friendly, they should have gotten somebody else. If that's what... You should have asked Tobimaru, if that's what you were after. She sighed at her social shortcomings, but then it occurred to her that being called into the school on a day off while sleep-deprived wasn't anything to smile about anyways. She also thought the person responsible for this mess would be better off attending elementary school. Damn! Damn! It might not be his fault, but neither was her duty or obligation to the teachers working for them. At the very least, they could have used their brains and organized all this normal school day. Another complaint she wanted to voice later. I'm so glad that the main character at least has a brain. I hate him already. He's my sworn enemy and I haven't even met him. Sorry, but I couldn't care less about his extenuating circumstances. You think this isn't awkward for me too? Honestly, why did this have to happen when I'm so busy? Her pounding headache from the lack of sleep had boosted her aggression by 10%. No matter how harmless this guy on the other side of the door may be, anyone who disturbed her sleep was the enemy. And just as she was reaching peak annoyance, Mr. Yamashita opened the door to the meeting room. The room slowly slid into view. She didn't care for formalities, just looked straight ahead and stormed into the room. Found herself face to face with the most unusual opponent. Before we go on, let's see from another's perspective, turning back the clock just a little. Back in time. You don't have to do anything. For the proactive girl, it was definitely the former, though she'd be too suspicious of the motives of anyone giving her such a gift to accept it. For the passive boy, it was definitely the latter, a bitter thorn that made him homesick, though at this very moment his mind was still distracted with a wait for his face to reveal any discomfort. He maintained perfect posture as he stared at the gray sky. He had already waited a whole hour, but figured they must have had their reasons for making him wake. And as long as he had the sound of the rain to soothe him, he could keep on waiting. He is definitely not a millennial or a Gen Z. Scroll, 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 scroll. And definitely not Gen Alpha. Scroll, 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 scroll. Ooh! Scroll, 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 scroll. Ooh! Dude's entertained by the rain. I like this guy. It must be 9 o'clock already. Yeah, that seems about right. He had been vaguely keeping track of the time as he listened to the rain. Due to the lack of the holiday, the school building was completely silent, except for the patter of the rain on the window. The mood felt as damp as the air. It was then he heard the heavy clatter of the footsteps approaching. Finally, I thought they'd forgotten about me. He could hear 2 sets of footsteps, one heavier step belonging to an adult. He breathed a sigh of relief as the door slid open. Sorry to keep you waiting. The first person he saw was a man wearing glasses and an awkward smile. That's Mr. Yamashita, the one who brought me here. Hey, where's Mr. Satonaka? I told him to keep you company. He shouldn't have left you here. So he was supposed to have company this entire time. That is the real asshole. That is the real asshole. Mr. Yamashita scratched his head and looked increasingly apologetic. And then from behind him, with a tight-lipped expression that made it clear she didn't want to be there, a dark-haired girl with a determined look in her eyes appeared. What? Shojuro gulped. The sound of the rain on the window faded into nothingness. That's when he knew. This was how it felt when the time stood still. Bow chicka bow wow. She blinked quickly a few times as if taken aback. Why was anyone's guess? The boy was everything she expected a naive country boy to look like. However, she felt something she couldn't understand. His eyes widened slightly as if taken aback. The reason was obvious. Putting his feelings into words was a difficult matter altogether, so we will never know exactly what he experienced in that moment. That's when it hit him. He sensed he'd be touched by the hands of destiny. Allow me to introduce the two of you. This is the transfer student I mentioned, Sojuro Shizuki. And this girl will be showing you around. She's our student council president and came in on our day off just to welcome you. Her name is Aoko Aozaki. His voice was the sound of the rain, seemed distant. This is how they first met. Such was their start, for better or worse, like the ephemeral beauty of fireworks. It's commonly believed among the other students that Aoko was always in a foul mood. But this gossip was 90% prejudice, as Aoko simply didn't have time to be irritated 24/7. I know someone like that. I know someone like that all too well. And I feel that. I don't have time to be angry. I don't have time to be irritated. I don't give a fuck at this point. I'm done. I'm moving on. Next! The reality was, she simply didn't want to explain herself all the time. Sounds like someone else I know. And they're the same person. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I'm done with you. I'm not explaining myself at this point. Get the fuck away from me. I love it. This sounds vaguely familiar. and therefore she seemed angry about something, obvious or not. And the idle gossip did, however, lead to her earning the title of one of the school's 7 deadly threats. Only 7? Echo! Hey, Amy. Boop. I'm leaving you in charge, Amy. Today that fell under 10%. For today, her anger was pure, and her childish and selfish display was befitting of her actual age. Oh, my phone's misbehaving. Good to see you, Echo. Phone, would you please behave on me? Thank you very much. I need you to behave, because otherwise you're going in the timeout chair. This was the setting of the 3 of them found themselves in. Her first impression was that his calm demeanor reminded her of a field of wildflowers. In spite of his perfect posture, his overall air felt placid. Placid? They use words I do not know in this visual novel. And though he's describing him as meek would be going too far. Even though his uniform, she could see that he was thinner than average. Her dark hair was unkempt, and he came across the whole unforgettable boy. Well, he grew up in the mountains outside of society, so he's probably thinner. He probably didn't get a lot of food growing up. If she had to look at him in a more positive light, she would describe him as more a young man than a boy. It was his calm demeanor that made him seem more mature. Does he have bandages around his neck? Hold up. The dude has bandages around his neck. Is someone going to explain this to me, please? He was bitten by a vampire. I'm calling it now, bitten by a vampire. Was that the cause of Aoki's reasonless reaction? He seemed almost too at home in the meeting room, and she was left with the impression that it was her and the teacher, not this outsider, who were the guests here. She felt an undefinable aggravation building within her, almost as if her right to be here was in question. Aoko felt herself raising her natural defenses. What's with me? Am I really this angry for no reason? Yes! Yes, you are. But to be fair, it's your day off. And you got called into work. I'd be in a mood too. Hell, I'm 85% certain some people I know would probably get mad and flip the entire kitchen. Just, nope, we're not doing this today. I'm going back home. You shouldn't have called me in. I just came in to flip the kitchen. She hated more understanding things, her own emotions in particular. It pained her less than you would imagine for a perfectionist like her, but still nagged her like a thorn in her side. Ozaki, why don't you introduce yourself? Mr. Yamashido's attempt to relieve the tension was equally irritating. And her expression says it all. Get the fuck out of the room before she throws you out herself. If looks could kill, he would be on fire. Introduce myself, huh? After casting a nasty glance at the teacher's directions, Aoko turned her face to the boy. From an outsider's perspective, it might have looked like a stare down. And in that instant, the culmination of her emotional state hurtled toward the innocent boy and skewered him. Again, sorry for the wake, Shizuki. Hearing his name, Sojiro came to his senses. His stunned gaze shook loose. He took a deep breath to clear his head. Chalking it up to nerves, Mr. Yamashido broke out his smile and turned to the girl standing beside him. I'll do the introductions then. This is the transfer student, Sojiro Shizuki. And this is our student council president, who came in on her day off just to show you around. Her name is Aoko Aozaki.
青崎青子くんだ。
Having been introduced by Mr. Yamashita, the girl took a step forward. Her eyes were merciless, her stare an unspoken threat to violently trample her opponent. Sojudo, on the other hand, managed to keep his own composure despite the shock at how confrontational she appeared. He had never been greeted quite like this before, but supposed mistakenly that this was how people treated each other in the city. They live in New York. And he's from the South. He's from a small town in Texas, and they live in New York now. The exchange must have looked quite dramatic to an onlooker. A girl ready to brawl. The earnest country boy desperate to understand. It was a murderous limbo, especially for anyone in the room with them. Mr. Yamashita, for example, while he had thought he had made the right decision in choosing an honor student to help him out, she was in inexplicably bad mood, and the tension in the air was undeniable. It was this moment that he realized his failure. His realization had come far too late. You think? Girl's ready to just burn the building to the ground. One false move, and this girl, for whom no problem was too large, would become a storm that would rock the very foundations of the school. Just as the almighty Joker could bring an entire fortune or disaster, the sole teacher who had been present at the time would come to bear the blame for the scandal that ensued. Wow, you two really seem to have hit it off. I suppose I can leave you two to it then. Mr. Yamashita laughed nervously as he crept towards the door. I'll be in the faculty room. Stop by when you're finished. You'll be alright, won't you, Aozaki? You're the student council president. Don't let me down. Mr. Yamashita leaving the two in a locked-eyed state, one in which one set of eyes was doing all the glaring. All that remained in the room was an artless boy and a cross-armed guarded girl. Don't take it out on him! Don't take it out on him! It's not his fault they wanted to do it on a frickin' day off. Don't yell at the teacher! Calm yourself down, and then come deal with him. It's not his fault. The two lingered in silence. They resembled shogi players, agonizing over their first moves, though it was only Aoko. She decided to put her irritation aside for the time being. With no reason to feel revulsion for him in the first place, she sighed deeply and faced Sojudo. This girl is the most mature person in this entire story so far. She is the responsible one. Whatever. It's not like this is the first time that Mr. Yamashita landed me in it. So, what's your name again? Her tone was nothing but reproachful, though he had done nothing to offend her, but the boy failed to pick up on it. Incapable of such venom himself. I'm Sojudo Shizuki, he replied. And you're Miss Aozaki, right? For whatever reason, he came across as happy in his response. Drop the miss. That's not my style. Is Shizuki fine? What do you mean? What do you mean? What do I mean? Hello? Did I say something weird? Yeah. Very. The boy replied immediately as if a natural response, but quickly second-guessed himself. Never mind. That must be normal here. You called me Shizuki. You mind if I call you Aozaki? Suit yourself. She followed her blunt reply with a swift turn away from him. While she was hardly thrilled at the prospect of the task at hand, it had been entrusted to her, and it was her personal policy to see it through to the end. Sorry, but I'm not in the mood for pleasantries. Time is short, so let's get this over with. Sure. I know, your time is valuable. Aoko's blunt rancor had lost him once again. Humans tend to be overly conscious about being ignored, whatever form that takes. But despite being peeved at landing none of her attacks, Aoko did her best to act professional and directed her guests into the hallway. There was no sunlight in the hallway nor any sign of life. This was more like a prison than a cave that was the meeting room. As it dawned on Aoko that the hallway matched her mood, she sighed once again. First things first, do you understand everything Mr. Yamashita explained to you? Yes, I get how the school works. But it's still a bit hard to imagine that everyone here is around the same age. I see. Great. Aoko rubbed her forehead. The Sojiro kid had no idea what he was in for. Apparently all he had heard about the school was that it was a place where a lot of people met to study. High school teachers imparted to students their knowledge in various fields to study while fostering discipline and creativity. But never did Aoko imagine that she would have to explain the concept of school itself to someone. Yes, fundamentals were important, but this was absurd. She had serious doubts whether he could handle classes, but Mr. Yamashita insisted that things would work out somehow. Sojiro had managed to pass the transfer exam after all. Barely. Not my problem. Aoko grumbled mentally as she walked down the hallway. She consoled herself with the fact that today would be the only day she'd spend with the boy out of time, or at least she'd try to keep it that way. Aozaki? He asked calmly, trying to get her attention. Nani? Can I ask you something? Yes, what is it? Could I be wrong about this, but you seem upset about something. You're not a morning person, are you? His gaze revealed earnest concern, as if asking if she had remembered to eat breakfast. She looks like she just asked what her size was. That is the wrong facial expression that any person should have, too. You seem upset. You're not a morning person, are you? Like, no! Is it not obvious? It's like another hammer to her head. It was true that Aoko had been glaring at Sojiro the entire time, glaring red-hot daggers, in fact, not just at him, but the universe. Even on her best days, her roommate used to remark, Most people can't handle your scowl, Aoko. It would hurt you a little more to be a little more tolerant. She used to be warned that her emotions were so naked on her face that people treated her like a powder keg. How naive could the boy be that he could not pick up on this? He's not making fun of me, is he? No, he couldn't be. Even she found her own attempt to reassure herself unconvincing. No, that was Aoki's reaction, not Sensei's. She was so done! She was so done! And compared to her, the laid-back transfer student might as well have been from another planet. Look, let me spell it out for you, because you're just not getting it. It's not your imagination. I am angry, and anyone can see that in my eyes. It's easier than trying to make conversation. In response to her words, the Martian clapped his hands together. That makes sense. I don't know why you'd want to do it that way, but I get it. Get that it's a faster way to express yourself. Sojiro accepted her reasoning without argument, though he still had no idea what kind of emotion she was trying to express. It was as if he could hear the words, but didn't grasp the meaning. Ideas that should have connected, but were instead separated into blocks. So it's true. He really is peculiar. Mr. Yamashita's words made sense to her now. What was odd about this boy went beyond naivety. A stranger in a strange land he may be, but it was only civilized to forgive him some jet-lag-induced confusion.
とりあえずあなたの
Let's
教室
visit
に
your
行くから。
classroom. She had regained her composure. Sojiro raised his hand and stopped in his tracks.
あと一つ。
Just one more thing. Aoko waited for Sojiro to continue. The boy was patient to a fault. She rubbed her forehead with her hand, nursing a vague feeling of
これもちょっ
uneasiness.
とした疑問なんだが、
I wanted to
なんで
ask,
君は怒ってるの？
why are you so
トイレ
angry?
の商売とか、
Is
そう
it
いう
your line of
家柄の人なの
business?
か？
Or does it run in your family? I'm trying so hard not to laugh. I'm trying so hard not to laugh. I'm trying so hard not to laugh at this. And I'm failing. A long silence. Though she knew it wouldn't change the situation, she remembered her regret at answering the phone that morning. He meant no harm. She repeated the thought like a mantra to an attempt to keep her impulses in check.
別にあなたのせいじゃないから気にする必
It's
要は
not
ないわ。
like you, if that's what you're worried
ただ
about.
この一瞬と
I'm just trying not to
お昼ま
think
で
about
眠っていた
how
場合
much
を
better my
計り
day
に
would
かけ
have
た
gone if I'd
あま
slept
りに利
until
益の
noon.
違いがあって頭
That
を抱
vague
えただけ
answer,
よ。
she started to walk again, and turned her gaze away from this rude stranger named Sojiro Shizuki. While what constitutes normal is certainly up for debate, most would undoubtedly refer to him as so. He was simple and nice boy with nondescript features. And Sojiro found Oka to be very businesslike and full of life. There was a certain purpose to her movements, as they began and ended in orderly fashion. The way her finger raised when she pointed at things, the way she made her way across the hallways and classrooms, and the way she would occasionally glance back at him to make sure she was keeping pace. Each and every movement was so impressive that he couldn't take his eyes off her. Aoko showed him to his homeroom, Class C of the 11th grade. The room certainly displayed more of a human touch than the previous meeting room, but Sojiro was none the wiser as to its function. Aoko gave a brief explanation before they visited individual subjects' classroom, as well as the gym, cafeteria, locker room, and school infirmary. Sojiro asked so many questions that much time passed before they reached the AV
ま
room.
ずいな。
Oh dear. Sojiro stopped, looking
あと
genuinely
20分
concerned.
経つと1時だ。
It's 20 to 1 already.
嘘でしょ？
え？
うちの校
You're
舎そ
kidding,
んな
right?
広くない
The
わ。
school isn't that big. We'll be done soon. The tour had begun around 10, which meant 3 hours had passed. A tour of a school shouldn't take anywhere near this long.
そうだったわね。行く
Maybe
先
if
々
you
で
didn't
根掘り
ask so
葉掘
many
り聞かれちゃ
questions, we'd
そ
be
りゃ
done by
何時
now.
間でも経
It's
つ
a
わ。
miracle you're still light
日
out.
が暮れていないのが不思議なくらいね。
Aoko glanced at Sojiro. She was being sarcastic, of course, knowing full well he'd never pick up on it. See? To her surprise, he looked down apologetically, unable to hide his
なん
dejection.
だこいつ。ちゃんとしてるじゃん。
I think I broke him. The guy before her now was nothing like earlier. In contrast to seeing his once impenetrable veneer, when they first met, she found herself feeling sympathetic. Momentarily, at least, until her irritation returned in full force.
で、何がまずいの？
What is the hurry? Don't tell me your brain's not big enough to remember all this
そ
stuff.
れもあるけど、
Well, there's that, but it's more about it almost being 1 o'clock. Sojiro's gaze wandered as if worried about something. If he was worried about the weather, he would have a hard time seeing it as there were no windows in this hallway.
へえ。時間を気にするっ
Don't
てこ
tell
とは
me.
よ。
You got somewhere to be.
そう。
That's
人
perfect.
の予定を
I
引っか
take
き
time
回
out of my
して
day
おい
for
て
you, and you don't
自
have
分
the
だけ好き
decency
な
to
ようにや
even
ろう。
hang
なん
around.
だ。顔に似合わず
You're a
にいい
real
ね
piece of work. You know that?
いや、褒めても何も出ないから。
Thanks. I guess. That's nice of you to say.
誰も褒めちゃいないわよ。
Not a compliment! She yelled at him, unable to hold back her fury.
で、
Well?
で、
Well, what? Well, what?
それで、一体何の用なの？
What's happening in 20 minutes? Sojiro's face lit up as she finally understood
そ
what
こ
she
は
was
秘密
asking.
にしておきたい。
It's a secret. he said with a perfectly straight face.
慣れ始めたつもりだったけど
Every time I think I got this guy figured out, he finds a way to trip me up. Her frustration was natural. Still, she did everything she could to stifle her feelings and fake a smile.
しずきくん
You want to repeat that, Shizuki? She took a step
秘
forward.
密だってば
Like I said, it's a secret. Feeling the mood change drastically, Soichiro took a step back. And another, and another. No matter how many steps she took back, she kept edging toward him. She was smiling, but he thought he could see the blood boiling beneath her
こ
skin.
れ最後の質問
Last
あなた
question. Do
私
you
をかばっ
enjoy
て楽し
mocking
い
me? He had no intention of mocking her, though at this point he undoubted presenting any evidence to prove that this would do much to erase that forced
Okay.
smile on her face.
説明する
Let me explain. His arms raced in surrender. She halted in advance and freed her face from that unseemly smile.
実は1時からアルバイトがあるんだでもここは
Truth
そういう
is
の禁
that
止
my
なんだ
part-time job starts at 1, but students aren't allowed to have
そうだ
jobs,
け
right?
ど
Yeah. Yeah?
禁止されてるから秘密に
Were
し
you
ようと
being
思ったの
tight-lipped because you thought you'd get in trouble?
そ
All
れ
you
な
have
ら
to do is
許
get
可さえ下
permission,
りていれば
dweeb.
問題ないわよ
知ってる試験の時
I
に許可
know,
をもら
and I
った
did. I got permission when they accepted me to the school.
へ
Really? Alka's face lit up as she realized he might not be the piece of work she thought he'd be.
しかし許可は一つしかもら
But
えなか
I
っ
only got permission for one of my jobs.
一つって
Wait,
あなた
you have
掛け
more
持ち
than one
た
job?
でも2件減らしたんだ
Well, I quit
生
two
活
of them.
費だけで大変なのに
Living
学費まで
expenses are
手
bad
伝
enough,
わなきゃいけ
but
ない
now I have to earn money for school as well.
働
Don't
き
you think
先を
it's
一つだけ
unreasonable
というの
for,
は
of
何
them
だ
to
か
let me
思う
work
か
いや
one
あ
job?
んまりなのはあなたの方だと思う
No, I think you're the one being unreasonable. Though still irritated, her opinion of him changed a little. She was impressed that he was able to take care of the tuition and living expenses all on his own. She could only empathize with having no time to oneself. Her anger began to subside. Yeah, this is definitely not modern day. Definitely not modern day. If you're working 2 part-time jobs and paying your tuition and living expenses, this is at least the 60s. The words part-time job were about the last thing she ever expected to hear
そう
out of the
いうこと
country
なら
boy's
仕
mouth.
方ないわね
Well, you gotta do what you
い
gotta
い
do,
わ
I
行
guess.
きなさいよ
It's fine. You can
青
go.
崎
I
は
get
いい
it.
のか
Will you be okay? She had no idea what the question meant, but she at least understood he was trying to be considerate, which also took her by surprise. She figured he'd just be just as dense about people's feelings as he was about everything else.
私もこのまま帰るから
I'll be fine. I'll just head home. First, though, she thought it best that they stopped by the faculty room. Mr. Yamashita had mentioned that the transfer procedure had already been completed, so all that remained for him was to sign off on her duties.
先生案内終わりました
I finished
それは
showing
お
him
疲れ
around.
様
Great,
しずきくんもお疲
great
れ
job.
様
That goes
それで
for you too,
コースを
Shizuki.
回った感想はどうかな
What did you think of our school?
なんというか
Thank you for the tour.
とてもが
It's like a real school.
そうかそうか、うん明日から
That's great to
頑張りな
hear.
さい
Okay then, best of luck starting tomorrow. She had no interest whatsoever in the pointless wrap-up meeting.
山城先生のことは気にしないでいいわ
You'll have
教
to
え子
forgive
に
Mr.
厄介なこと
Yamashita.
を押し付けて
He likes the
うんざり
faculty
返って
room
い
so
るぐら
much
い
he
職員
chooses
室
to
で
kick
好きな
back
んだ
while they're getting in
何時間
students
でも
to
待
do
って
his
るで
dirty
しょ
work for him. I bet he spends
Yeah.
hours in there.
待ってるべきじゃない
Actually, that's pretty smart of him.
そうか青崎がいい
Okay,
なら
Awazaki.
いいんだ
If you're fine with it, then so am I. There it was again. Whatever Sojiro was getting at, Aoko had no
それ
idea.
じゃあ行くよ今日はありがとう
I'm going to get going.
今日だ
Thanks
けよ
again today.
今日だけ
Yes, today. Today only. She stood him away with her hand. His face bent into a broad smile as if he found the gesture endearing. A softer expression than she had grown accustomed to seeing out of him. It was the kind of smile that would make anyone smile back. Well, most people at least. Aoko Awazaki didn't betray the slightest hint of a smile.
それじゃあまた
See you later. And with that friendly farewell, Sojiro walked towards the end of the hallway. Or so she thought before he turned into the next class over. Did he just... Sojiro headed straight for one of the classroom windows. Whereupon he opened it with ease. The chilly November air filled the room as the soft sound of rain doubled its volume. And in that instant, she realized his intention of opening the window. She really wished she hadn't.
いや
No! No! Stop, 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 stop! She already had one leg out the window when she dashed to stop him. What are you doing? What am I doing? I'm leaving for my job, that's what. You do know that a window isn't an exit, don't you? I mean, do you even know what floor you're on? She saw the light understanding dawn in his eyes. Oh my god, I almost died. Who would put an exit here? This is dangerous. It's the lack of something between your ears that's dangerous. Her insult went right over his head. People don't normally enter and exit through windows, okay? You should probably remember this information for future reference. Oh, I know. I wanted to save some time, but thanks for... I'll be more careful from now on. He pulled his leg back inside and closed the window. His school uniform was soaking wet from the rain. Hey, be my guest. Go outside any way you like. Just don't do it in front of me from now on. Anyway, you start school tomorrow, right? Yeah, I'm a little nervous though, which is why I came in early for the tour. He bid her farewell before running away down the hallway. She hoped he would walk down the stairs and leave through the school entrance like a normal person. I wonder if he's really going to be okay here. The image of him disappearing into the distance popped into her head in spite of her ire. She had no intention of spending any more time with him, and yet she felt strangely anxious. She couldn't tell if the feeling was fueled by concern or irritation. Why had she even gotten angry with the insignificant transfer student in the first place? A strange day with a strange transfer student resulting in strange emotions. Her head tilted as she reflected on what should have been a more enjoyable day than the irritating experiences she just had. Whatever. It's not as if I'll see him again. You go to school together. You're going to see him again. The sound of the rain echoed quietly all around her. The gray sky seemed frozen in time. It was impossible to discern whether it was morning or evening. Mr. Yamashiro and Aoko were likely the only ones left at the school. The unlit classroom looked overly gloomy and ominous as Aoko stood in and alone. She pulled up her left sleeve. Her dainty, unremarkable watch showed that it was almost 1 o'clock. He was right about the time. She looked out the window at the grounds below. She saw a boy in a uniform running through the rain without an umbrella. A sight she must have seen before, but for whatever reason affected her far more than she wished. Aoko did not stop by the faculty room before heading home. Mr. Yamashiro's offer to drive her home was tempting. She decided it would ultimately be far more satisfying to ruin his day just as he had hers. She walked as quietly as she could toward the entrance and opened her bright red umbrella. As she had predicted that morning, the rain was waning in the afternoon. At this rate, it would probably cease completely in an hour or so. The distant sunshine would likely have reached her by the time she arrived home. I suppose it could be worse. She shrugged her shoulders in resignation. She neither liked nor disliked rain, but she found herself enjoying her walk home with her red umbrella in hand. The teachers at Misaki High School weren't fond of bright colors, so Aoko's red umbrella was an unusual sight. The ghost story about how the umbrella was once pure white had been making rounds, but it featured Aoko instead of a ghost. It was with that umbrella that she made her way towards the Misaki station. Misaki Private High School took its namesake from the town it was in, and the area was once sprawled with farmland and woodland, but rapid growth over the last 10 years had led to unprecedented modernization. There were some who fought to preserve Misaki's natural treasures. I'm with them! I'm with them. Don't ever let the history of the town die, or else it becomes boring. I agree in principles to preserving the land, but not at the expense of our prosperity. With those words, the mayor snuffed out the voices of the minority and ushered more than enough funds for the urban development were collected, and the unassuming town of Misaki became the largest municipality of Misaki in nearly 10 years, even though it lacked modernity of neighboring Yashirogi. or the elegance of Misaki Hills.
それも当然よね。
What did the people expect? To keep the town hidden atop the mountain forever? It's not like they were going to flatten the mountain or something. Urbanization had been contained in the lowlands around the station, with most of the hills and mountains still standing as they did 10 years prior. The exhaustion of funds succeeded in protesting the old Misaki where the citizens could not. It became a truly old suburban town, welcoming an increasingly urban population with its vestige of old country charm. Misaki High School was a private school established long before the town's current state. The original campus, built 50 years ago, was located high up in the mountains, making its current location its second incarnation. The path to the old grounds were not only steep and remote, it had become an overgrown game trail with the passage of time. For these reasons, among others, Misaki High School had been shuttered until almost 20 years ago, when it received a donation from the department store chain that allowed the construction of a new campus in the city, and thus Misaki High School reopened its doors, the old woodland campus forgotten. In fact, most of the students attending Misaki High School were not from Misaki at all. The hardy rustic people of this country town preferred prefectural schools to private ones. The truth be told, Aoko herself was one of them. All she had wanted after junior high was to move to Tokyo, where she hoped to spend her days touring her favorite bands on her way to entering the public university. But her hopes were dashed with her sister's departure, so here she was, walking alone in the town with only a red umbrella to keep her company on what should have been a day off. Looking back at it now, it's like my whole life had been one disaster after another. Her frustration evaporated into cold December air. Oh well, at least it's not boring. With those words, her mood brightened a bit as she left the school in her wake. The busier part of town met her at the bottom of the gentle sloping road. Misaki's train station was brand new. Once looking no prettier than an abandoned factory, it had been renovated into a multi-purpose structure with huge department stores on its east and west sides. When the department store first opened, Aoko and her friends had been impressed with their modern feel, but in time the stores, too, became dated. I'm looking at you, Denton! I'm looking at you! She had no shopping to do today, so she passed them by. And what she really wanted to do was rest at a cafe, but she fought the urge, knowing her roommate would never let her hear the end of it if she frittered away her money. Uh-oh. She looked back and blinked. For just a moment, she could have sworn she'd seen someone suspicious in a red dress out of the corner of her eye. I didn't see anything. Did you? I didn't see a red dress. I didn't see a gray one either. It must have been her imagination. The sixth sense chill she was experiencing down her spine was a familiar one at this point. I see dead people. She continued her walk home, brushing off the event as if it had never happened. In time, the chill faded, and all that was left was the sounds of the town. She sighed heavily. She had imagined it. Even if it had all been in her head, she was far from comfortable with the feeling that still lingered. Even mosquitoes have the grace to buzz off eventually, she grumbled under her breath. Whether good or bad, this too shall pass. So the saying goes. Yeah, I've got enough on my plate as it is. Unfortunately, summer and bugs go hand in hand. She could see how bugs could be drawn to all the sweet fruit. They're talking about me. Skeeters love me. Rank with grease and heat, the kitchen was closed for the time being. The lunch rush had come and gone. But one last battle remained. Dinner time! Only after the evening chaos could the kitchen crew remove their white armor and call it a day. In the midst of the war zone was a lone newcomer. That is the most best description to describe a kitchen. A war zone. Because you're in hell. Especially when the air conditioner's out. That is absolutely what it's like when the air conditioner's out. Do I have to wear this? His voice was uneasy, betraying how new he was. I know how you feel, man. I feel the same. Unfortunately, it's the boss's orders. So you have to suck it up, okay? The future of the shopping arcade is at stake. Apparently, I really hate to ask, but the rain has stopped. So would you mind going out for me? Get back in one piece, and I'll buy you dinner. His bright orange coworker clasped his hands together as if to beg for forgiveness as he saddled him with the unreasonable task. "10 years ago, Misaki City was the town of farm and woodland. But everything had changed. The front of the station was now lined with tall, multi-story buildings, and the resident areas were similarly full of apartment complexes. The once rustic sceneries around the station had long become a thing of the past. Shironizuka was the only place in the city that still contained vestige of the old town, a pocket of the past inside. The road extended up a conspicuously high hill to an old residential district far from the hustle and bustle of the train station. Long ago, it had been considered unwise to build on high ground, so nobody lived above a certain elevation. Shiro Inuzuka, sitting as it did atop a hill in the middle of the town, was no exception to that convention. It had no residents to speak of. The asphalt continued for some time, eventually giving way to a mountain road that was swallowed into the cover of trees. A lone vending machine stood to the mark of the boundary between town and beyond. Even the children knew that there was nothing beyond the new playground and development that so enthralled them. There's going to be something amazing out there. The best thing ever is going to be out there. Well, that was not entirely true. There was nothing besides the haunted house. Called it! Looks like we got a mystery on our hands. Oko Aozaki traversed this long slope. Oh, no, it's just her house. Below her, she could see the whole of Misaki. This symmetrical town looked like a miniature set from this height. It would look like a painting if there had been a sea next to it, but unfortunately, Misaki City was very much landlocked. Damn! I wanted to see the ocean. While it's overcast at the moment, the scene was quite breathtaking on clear evenings. The view was the one thing that made arduous climb worthwhile, and today she had been denied even that. I'd cycle home if it wasn't for this rain. Even a bus route would be a fine thing. Aoko had been using the road to get to school for almost 2 years now, but the journey had never gotten easier. She gotta have some thighs with those climbing. Oh, it's locked. I guess Alice isn't back yet. With a weary shrug, she put her hand on the rusty iron fence. Quietly, the heavy gate swung open as if to welcome her home. There sits atop that hill, a haunted house. That is how the story much shared around town used to begin, but fresh rumors about the house had sprung to life almost as fast as the town's modernization. Despite being dilapidated and abandoned for many years, lights can be seen inside the house at night. An angry murder of crows often gathers atop the hill before mysteriously vanishing. Children get lost in the fog, never to be seen again. Late at night, a shrieking sound can be heard all the way to town. This particular piece of slander was the one Aoko wished to discredit the most. The final rumor was of an eye-catching luxury car that sometimes made its way up and down the hill. Rumors spread and grew by the day. And while they grew, the house that everyone thought had rotted away was restored over the recent years. Deep in a wood on top of the hill, no one dared to approach. Like a ruined shroud from view even on the brightest of days, stood a relic out of time, a building from a fairy tale. The house was the Kuonji Mansion. Everyone in town knew about the witch's house on the hill. It was unabashedly haunted, where Aoko and Aozaki resided for reasons known only to her. I'm with Aoko. The house is gorgeous. Can I get that house? How much? Shut up and take my money. I want this house. It is gorgeous. Needless to say, it was not really haunted. The Kuonji family home was a grand Western-style mansion with a long and storied history stretching all the way back to England. It was too small to be a dormitory, yet too big to be called a house. The main building contained as many as 3 normal houses worth of rooms and was surrounded by a large, all-encompassing courtyard. The perimeter of this grounds was surrounded by a high iron fence covered with thorny vines. There was also an annex to the main building. Given such extravagance, it was no wonder that it inspired rumors. To the town residents, the mere existence of such a lavish and out-of-place mansion on top of the hill was a cause for suspicion. Rumors, lie, and slander were the prices to be paid for fame. The only 2 lodgers it was hard to disagree with, the perception that vampires must be living here. Well, I know I'm not the only one. But Alice... She put her hand on the front door. It was a grand double door that would have paired well with a brass lock, and yet it was secured with little more than a simple keyhole. Pushing it open with one hand, she entered the supposedly haunted house. And by the way, if vampires weren't enough to scare you, ghosts were known to appear on certain nights. Dude! How do I live in this house? Much like the weather outside, the foyer was overcast with shades of gray. Perhaps by delicate design, the architect had chosen not to include any lights in the entrance area. The ceiling was 2 floors high. The only light in the room came from the skylight. It was particularly gloomy on rainy days. One moonless night, it was like the world itself ceased to be. Aoko decided the drawing room to the east would be a good place to rest. But knowing that she would not be able to relax until she changed clothes, she started up the stairs. The stairs curled up the wall of the 2nd floor hall. There was a 3rd floor attic as well, accessible from the far end of the hall. She had never set foot in there in the 2 years she had lived here, though. The Kuonji mansion was more or less divided into 2 wings, east and west. Aoko had been given the entire east wing, but 2 rooms were more than enough for her as far as she was concerned. She had no desire to open a door that would trap you in a storybook world or lead to an attic that had only been used for storage these last 5 years. That's what an attic is for! Girl plays guitar! Aoko's room was at the end of the east wing's long corridor. She had elected for a small room for no other reason other than that she thought it would be easier to clean. It was furnished with a large bed, her beloved mahogany desk, a wardrobe and chest for her clothes, and 2 9-shelf bookcases. And clearly some guitars! That was the extent of what she brought from home. Her entire life of 16 years reduced to this. She also borrowed the next room down for her own purposes. Oh yeah, I should check on the watchtower I got from Alice. She needed to see if the projects had been working on all night had borne fruit. The study next door served as proof of the life she had been living in the last year and how different that life was from the one she had lived before. It was not a room for the person she had been. It was a room for the person she would eventually become, a place of solitude that only she could enter. Or so she thought. Wow, not only did it break, it vanished without a trace. Looks like I've still got a long way to go. Go ahead and laugh it up, Robin. The nosy neighbor that had intruded upon her sanctuary flew away. While not exceptionally talented, Aoko did not lack for effort and was not afraid to fail. One could have almost mistaken her approach for optimism. She changed out of her uniform and returned to the first floor. Down the stairs, she opened the door to the east wing into the corridor as dark as a cellar. The absence of windows meant it was pitch black without the lights on, so she flicked the switch and entered the nearby doorway. Life without electricity, I don't even want to imagine it. It had been her idea to upgrade the drawing room. The walls were decorated with extravagant patterns, and around the room were large, majestic sofas and a luxurious Persian rug. Amidst it was all was a 30-inch television that seemed completely out of place. It stood looking over the other furniture like the emperor with no clothes. The mansion's owner would have rather done without it, but to a commoner like Aoko, it was an essential commodity. They had fought over its presence at first, but eventually came to an agreement and now mutually enjoyed this modern comfort. I gotta stop because this comment is the absolute truth. This music is beautiful. I do seriously enjoy this music. Let's just take a moment to appreciate this, can we? This piano sounds live for reals. Like, this was not MIDI. This was not done digitally. Now, in a somewhat pleasant mood, she decided to brew some tea. Ooh! I'm out. She boiled some water in the kitchen and prepared a teapot and made herself some black tea. Phew. With a flop, she sank into the sofa. She took a sip of her tea, then another. I can see why, Echo. I can see why. This scene, or this music, genuinely is good. There's very few games that have good soundtracks. So far, this game has not disappointed, and this scene is beautifully done by it. It sells this scene so well. Lulled by the ticking clock, she took a third sip as she pondered how to spend her afternoon. The sofa almost seemed to be inviting her, and she sunk even further into its comforting. Aoko clearly opened her eyes as she lifted her body up from the cushions. Clearly, she didn't get enough caffeine from the tea. Wow. That is a gorgeous avatar. I love this design with all my heart. At some point, the girl sat down across from her. Not the least bit surprised, she reached for her teacup, but the tea within had gone completely cold. Did I doze off? She asked a question to the girl on the other side of the table. Yes, the girl answered without lifting her gaze. She's prettier than the main character! When silent, she could have been mistaken for a beautiful doll. Yeah, she really could! The girl sitting on the opposite sofa was reading an old book. She had delicate limbs and pale white skin. Not a hint of humanity emanated from her melancholic aura. She had darker hair than Aoko, and her icy eyes were focused on the pages in front of her. Her clothes resembled that of a nun, but were actually her school uniform. In Aoko's humble opinion, the gloominess suited her. She evoked something like out of a painting. There was something unreal about her, as if she were frozen in time. This is a great example of less is more, honestly. character designers, things like this, where less is more, is genuinely wonderful. And that's something I really want to go with for some of my characters. It's just simple, yet beautifully done. Like, I understand the need for more complexity, but sometimes less is more, and this does wonderful. The white of her gently arched neck was so lovely that even Aoko found herself enchanted by it. The girl was one of the haunted house's 2 residents. Her name was Alice Kuonji, and she was the same age as Aoko. How long was I asleep? At least an hour. You'll catch a cold if you keep sleeping here. Alice answered indifferently, not that it bothered Aoko, who was now used to it. She looked at the clock on the wall and saw that it was already 7. She had been asleep for 2 hours. Hold up. That was a 5-hour walk? She left... No. 4-hour walk. Because she got there at home at 5. Or fell asleep at 5. You're going to have to recommend more of these games when we do the next one, Amy. You know that, right? If this game is as good as what you're saying it is, you're going to be in charge of giving me more. We might just have to start having a visual novel day. And I'm going to blame you. You could have woken me up. Now my tea is cold. It was already cold by the time I got here. I'm sure it was. I'm just saying. Aoko drank down the rest of the cold tea in one gulp. For real! Cold tea is not bad tea! Cold tea is still good tea! In the poorly heated Kuonji mansion, that was more than enough to clear her head and wake up. Nothing quite beats this tea. Nothing quite beats this tea. Not even the expensive kind from Britain. What kind of tea is it? Where do I get some? Anyway, welcome home, Alice. The universe seems determined to keep me from even occasional luxury without you. What is it about today? Is it just my luck or what? At this rate, I'm due a temple visit just to be safe. Aoko shrugged her shoulders as if resigning herself to her fate. Something happened. After 2 years together, they knew each other quite well. Aoko had one way of asking questions, and Alice had another. Alice asked without raising her head, and Aoko gave her the details. Should I start by apologizing? The project I was working on all night was a total failure. I only took my eyes off it for a second, but I think it boiled over and fell apart. So I add that I shuffled the circulation codes as precaution. Aoko tried to laugh it off as if it was someone else's problem. And? Something came up this morning and I was called into school. They made me show the transfer student around, and it took up my whole day. By the time I got back, it had vanished without a trace. You're mad. Are you? Hardly. If I got mad every time you broke something, there would be no end to the fighting. I have more materials, so you can just start over. However, aren't you really the one who's angry? Alice was very much on point today. Girl wasn't even expressing it in the picture. She's only doing it here now that she got pointed out. Girl can read her like a book. It was true that despite outward appearances, Aoko was seething with frustration. That aside, she got read like a book despite being totally calm. I need that skill. I need that skill. True enough, this transfer student I mentioned earlier was a real piece of work. He's been living deep in the mountains and has literally zero common sense. I know people say that the mountains are like an entirely different world, but I had no idea how true it was. Alice raised her head in response to hearing her name. But Aoko kept going on before she could get a word in edgewise. Aoko, after all, expected no sympathy in the first place. We didn't get along well from the start, but things really took a turn for the worse when I took him to the classroom. Well, you started off mad at him for no reason, and then he made things worse. Neither of you really helped in the matter. You both just kind of didn't go well. Sounds like you just need to restart, reload, and try again, because, Jesus Christ, you were mad at him for the teacher's actions, and then he fucked up. He apparently thought it was a place where you'd get one-on-one tutoring, and that's not all. I mean, you're never going to believe this. What do you think he asked when I politely explained what a classroom is to him? He goes, but then what are the other classrooms for? Unbelievable, right? I mean, a classroom is a classroom. To be fair, this dude's probably homeschooled. So he probably doesn't fully grasp it. It did say that he didn't seem to have gone to a school before, so he's probably homeschooled. And homeschool kids are unique sometimes. And no matter how vague or helpful anything I said was, he just kept nodding. It was like he was just taking everything at face value. I don't know if he was just lack of imagination or never uses it. Anyway, he at least seemed to grasp most of what I told him the first time around, so I suppose he's not a complete idiot. It's rare to see you so judgmental. Is it really worth getting worked up over someone like that? I couldn't care less about him. I'm just worried he'll screw up somehow. What she was really worried about was having to clean up the mess if and when it happened. That had to be it. If not, it would mean she had no real idea why she could not get him out of his head. Well, he was a weirdo, alright. You two would probably hit it off great. Another world in the mountains doesn't sound so bad. But from her eyes, it was clear that the question of whether they would get along was irrelevant, given that they would never meet in the first place. Aoko gave a non-committal response. Anyway, what have you been reading? A book about spiritual evolution, based on the spiritual diary. Ah, Swedenborg, huh? Is that really worth reading again? I wouldn't bother if it were the original, but this is a knockoff. It exaggerates the pros and cons of Swedenborg's style, and reads like a well-written adventure. Having the secret organization Kant standing in his way was a nice addition. The handwriting of the notes in the margin belongs to your grandfather. I had no idea he was into that sort of thing. He had a great sense of humor. I really miss him. Aoko seemed nostalgic over her now-deceased grandfather. He just contacted you this last summer, didn't he? Do we really have to go there? Why can't dead stay dead? Aoko sighed and laid back on the sofa. The soft cushions caved in under her weight. As I was saying, Alice shot a glance at Aoko. Her body buried in the sofa remained as still as a corpse. It was clear Aoko had tuned out of the conversation. Alice silently chastised her with a look. The more she thought about it, the less important the events of the day seemed to become. She just ignored Alice. The conversation would end there. They would eventually get up and leave today's mistake unresolved for another day. However, that's not the kind of person Aoko Aozaki was. Yeah, what is it? She asked, still lying down. It's upsetting that you failed today. Like I said, I'm thinking about it. I need to focus on becoming a full-fledged mage before thinking about school. I know that. I hope you do. The coldness in her voice made Aoko gnash her teeth. She knew what Alice wanted to say. She knew better than anyone. The veneer she wore for school was different than the way she lived at home. While it could be called hiding in plain sight, Alice thought it was silly. And what the silence told her was,
覚悟を決めろって言いたいのよね。
make up your mind already, I know. Today's failure was not a colossal one. She just happened to upset the delicate balance between our home and school lives, chasing one at the expense of the other, and yet the careless mistake was a clear sign of Oko's lack of commitment.
アリスは関係ない。これは
This doesn't count her,
私が
Alice.
私で決めなくち
It's
ゃ
my
いけない
decision.
こと。
Doesn't concern Alice. It's my decision to make. She had only known for sure for the last year and a half, but she had a bunch for as long as she could remember. Make the choice, and the day will come. It was little wonder that her morals and conscience had been stripped away. Aoko pushed herself back up. She was met by Alice's cold beauty and wordless gaze.
OK、アリス。来週中に決着をつけよう。
Okay, Alice, we can do it next
So
week. That work for you?
ええ。青子がいいな。
As long as it works for you. Aoko could not help but shake her head, feeling like she was hearing something similar for the second time that day. Even in the comfort of her own, she couldn't banish thoughts of that country boy from her mind.
じゃあ、下準備はよろしくね。
Well,
私まだで
I'll
き
let
ない
you
し。
set it up then. That's still beyond my abilities.
場所は例の公園でいい？
Should we do it at the park?
妥当な線ね。
Sure.
でももう
That
一
line
件
is
の方
suitable
は
enough. But what about that other thing?
そっちの方が急務じゃない？
Isn't that a more urgent concern?
時と場合、森
It
に変
depends
化
on
が
the
あれば教える。
conditions. I'll let you know if there are any changes to the woods. After that brief exchange, Alice returned her attention to the book on her lap. Shop talk was over. Now they could return to their normal relationship as roommates. Aoko grabbed the remote and turned on the TV. Since Alice was busy reading, Aoko decided to tune into a variety of Alice started to speak, but suddenly cut herself off. One of her delicate hands raised to her mouth. She would always cut herself off the second she realized she was about to say something trivial. Sometimes her self-restraint hit too late. She would make a gesture like the one she was making now. It occurred to Aoko that the sound her cute little roommate made just now was different from the what she blurted out a few times past.
何？
What is it? Aoko turned on the volume of the TV. Her intense eyes lit up like those of a mischievous cat.
はないんだけど。
It's nothing really, but
ないんだけど？
what? Alice looked away bashfully, not knowing if she could bring it up or not. It was times like these that her expression carried a real warmth and surprising charm. That is an amazing expression. And I can't tell what it is. But I love it. If you could see her in this moment, Alice's father would have to admit that her name suited her perfectly.
帰ってくるときおかしな
It's
夢を
just
見
that
て
I saw something strange on my way home and wanted to tell someone about it. Aoko nodded, beckoning her to continue. She saw the girl in the red dress.
本当にいい夢ない
It's
か
silly, really.
ど
but
う考えても
I just can't make sense of it no matter how much I think about it. Aoko, do you have any idea why a man-sized cat would be riding around town, delivering meals to people?
わかる。
That was a guy in a suit? And he's forced to dress as their mascot? Whoever's in that better get paid very well. That poor man. For a second, Aoko thought Alice was trying and failing miserably to make a joke again. One would think that about anyone, really. But she seemed completely serious. Even if Alice's sense of humor fell flat for Aoko, this story already sounded more fanciful than Alice's unusual attempt at jokes. Aoko concluded that her roommate was talking about something she actually had seen.
その話には
There are a
2
few
つぐらい
things off
信じ
about
がた
that.
い部分もあるけ
Maybe
ど
we should break it down.
一つずいいの？私は
Let's
から
not.
くりぐらいは思いつ
If I can think of a few mundane
理
explanations.
由がわからないから聞
I'm
いて
just asking because I can't figure out why somebody would do
わざ
that.
わざ精巧
Maybe
な
it's as
猫
simple
の
as
人間
someone
によっ
just
て
dressing up in a friendly
出前
crafted
の
cat
天
suit
然物を届け
deliver
る
food for a restaurant.
難易度以前にそれをやる人
I'm
間
even
の
more
常
worried
識性を
about
疑
the
うけど
person
ね
doing it
私は
than their reasons, personally. Alice nodded tentatively at her words.
世の中いろいろあるから
But whatever it does it for them, I guess. In a world where people like us and weirdos that live like mountain hermits, there's no telling what kind of freaks are out there. Personally, I would have just gone up to them and asked them what they were doing. Alice's gaze drifted at that. A delivery cat riding through the neighborhoods in the evenings? Sounds like something straight out of a fantasy story. Yeah, straight out of Studio Ghibli. Hey, what should we do for dinner tonight? Speaking of delivery, maybe we should order in. Aoko loved getting takeout, and her face glowed as she spoke. Can you afford takeout? I can't even afford groceries, and these girls are getting takeout in high school? I'm so mad. I want takeout. They had no hard rules for dinner, but if one of them was in the mood to cook, they made it a point to make it enough for two. At the very worst, this meant entire weeks without dinner, but the two of them agreed that it was the system that worked best for them. Whether they found cooking to be too much effort or simply liked ordering out, nights like this one were a common occurrence, much to the chagrin of the restaurants of Misaki Town. Delivering to the mansion meant coming all the way to the top of this hill, the source of their disgruntlement. It's still late, so we're good. I'm really in the mood for kongetsu tonight. I haven't had their tsukimi soba in ages. The hungry student council president laid out a stack of take-up menus like she might fan out a deck of cards, excitedly scanned for anything that stood out. Alice casually responded without sparing so much as a glance. Sorry, but I have already had dinner. With those words, Aoko froze. All deliveries required a minimum of 2 items, so she was out of luck without an accomplice. Cruel society had decided it couldn't be bothered to deliver to a princess who only ordered single servings of food. Incidentally, to counteract the orders from the Hilltop Mansion, the restaurants had declared the minimum number of orders will be 3 starting next year. Aoko and Alice were still in the dark to their fiendish change in direction. Traitor! Is that why you were late getting back? Between the bus ride and the walk, the trip home takes only 20 minutes. I should have known something was up when you didn't get home before 5 o'clock. Fortunately for Aoko, she had been too out of it to even remember that she was the only one who'd fallen asleep. Talk about ice, Queen. I thought it was clear that if either of us got food, we would bring enough home for the other person. Didn't I bring something back for you when I ate out last minute? It was unknown how serious Aoko was being, but she was visibly angry. She had already woken up hungry that morning, and from the time she was called into school until now, she had consumed nothing but tea. It was a small miracle that her stomach was not growling. For reals! This girl needs to eat! Somebody feed this woman before she eats Alice! She knew it was her own fault, but she persisted, wanting to get revenge on Alice for scolding her earlier. By last time, you mean the time you went into the city and ate sushi but only came back with a plastic bag full of convenience store food? That time? Aoko had kicked a hornet's nest. So what? It was better than nothing, wasn't it? No, I'm with Alice on this one. You went out and got sushi and didn't bring me anything? I'm mad. I'd be mad. I'd be pissed. I'd be flipping tables. There are times when you'd know you'd be better off saying nothing at all. Alice's icy gaze pierced right through her. Aoko had certainly crossed the line by going on and on about how the sushi circled around the restaurant while Alice ate her convenience store meal. But new things fascinated her, and she couldn't contain her curiosity towards the conveyor belt sushi shops that started popping up at the time. They were nothing short of miracles. Yeah! I'm with Alice on this one. You're making things worse. Even honesty can be a sin given the right circumstances. Fine, I get it. Does this at least mean we're even now? Alice went back to her book without so much as recognizing the question. The fact that she did not confirm it made Aoko anxious. No! You owe her sushi! You owe this girl sushi! I guess I'll whip up something in the kitchen. She stood up and announcing her intent to no one in particular. Oh, I almost forgot to ask. Where did you end up eating anyway? Alice's hand froze on her current page. She suddenly shut the book she was reading and stood up as if at wit's end. She walked across the drawing room with her book at hand. When she reached the door, she stopped and turned toward Aoko. You really want to know? You really want to know? Sure. A boy's house. She ate at a boy's house. Aoko nodded, timidly cowed by Alice's sudden vigor. Alice continued in the matter-of-fact way. The cat gave me one of his leftover deliveries. With that brief response, she left the room. Then why didn't you ask why he was in a cat outfit? If a cat's just handing you food, you're going, why are you in a cat outfit? Isn't there like a... Morning in the city moved incredibly fast. It made one wonder if it was even morning at all, with people so bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. The unfamiliar roar that awoke him reminded him of a rock slide. The identity of the monstrous sound was the engine of motorcycle Mr. Yoshida, his neighbor, was leaving for work. It was hard to determine when night ended and morning began here. The town's urbanization was synonymous with insomnia. Already? It's barely sunup yet. What could Mr. Yoshida be going so early? He sluggishly lifted himself off the floor. He caught himself starting to survey his surroundings out of habit before deciding better of it. Made his way to the washroom. There he poured himself a cup of water and slowly gulped it down. Having been relegated to well water until recently, he found the convenience pleasing. Pleased was definitely the word to best describe how he felt. Civilization was about erasing inconveniences through optimization, reduction of labor in our daily lives. Mr. Koga had taught him that while the essentials were easier than ever to get our hands on, life itself was growing more and more complex. So too was his duty to adjust to his new reality. As a distant relative of Sojudo's father, Mr. Koga had taken Sojudo in, even though the boy had been little more than a stranger in his life to that point. Mr. Koga had helped him get registered at school and find an apartment to lease, though he had insisted that Sojudo handle his residence card and register his change of address by himself. The series of procedures proved exceedingly difficult for Sojudo, but knowing that this was part of his new city life, he did his best to complete them diligently. While they may have a reputation for being a stickler for the rules, city offices aren't all that bad. It was the first thing Sojudo learned after beginning his new life in the city. 2 weeks had elapsed since he left the countryside, and uneasy as living alone made him feel, he felt he could make it work. It was not as if the people here spoke another language, and Mr. Koga was absolutely right about how practical the rules of the city were. Sojudo continued down the hard but surprisingly walkable path. Before work, he jogged in the park to pass the time. Even exercise like this offered lessons of Sojudo to learn. Each passing person was a new face to look at, the old man who greeted him, the young worker with his eyes on the ground, and the girl on the bench surrounded by birds. They were all unfamiliar sights to Sojudo. Unaccustomed to the city, he labored to understand its rules. Whether they were complex and simple, or completely meaningless, compared to the mountain life Which one dealt with nature? City left one with one too many options. One could argue that such an environment was toxic for you, Sojiro. His life was a string of unsettling moments, but amongst it all, there were rules that he sincerely admired. For one, that the city revolved around various forms of profit and loss. The fact that only one needed money to get the bare essentials to survive the city was a comforting thought to Sojiro. You get money to survive? Seriously, America, take notes! Take notes! Hey, not everything's that simple. Money is just a symbol. It's the other stuff that truly matters. Money ain't that different from those free-shouldered massage coupons people hand out. It's not like the food you buy with 10,000 yen bill won't turn out bogus. Look, money can't buy you happiness. Do you get me? Maybe. Maybe. Are you for real, man? I can't believe you right now. One day you're happy to break your back working a full day for a measly 4,000 yen. And next you're elbow deep in dirty dishes saying, it's all about the money. What's your major malfunction? These people are living off 40 bucks a day? What year is this? I wish I was living off 40 bucks a day. I need 40 bucks an hour. No, I think that the current system is kind of amazing. To be honest, I never realized how limited bartering can be. Anyway, Kinomi, you're gonna drop that if you aren't careful. Crap! Oh damn, that was close. If I break any more, it'll be my head next. Thank you for the save. So what did you want to talk to me about? It's money, isn't it? Exactly. I learned my lesson the hard way, but now I know that it's better to have more money than less. That's why I'd like to work even more than I am now. Are you real? You already wash dishes like a machine. Didn't I just... How money can't buy happiness? Love can, but back right up. Why is the water so cold? Say, we should probably get paid more washing dishes in the winter, huh? It's cold, alright, but nothing I can't handle. Mountain water is so cold it hurts. I didn't mean it was ice water, you hick. That thick skin of yours can really be annoying, you know that? This is pre-90s? Explains the phone. I thought that was just his house, but damn. I wonder if 40 bucks a day is making him survive. You can actually live on 40 bucks a day back in like the 70s and 80s. For someone who couldn't even work at a cash register 4 days ago, you sure got comfortable working for the man. I guess money really is everything. The power of capitalism ain't nothing to mess with. Shut your pie hole, part-timers. The door's right there if you want to quit. I don't have the cash to waste on deadbeats. The clamps and chopsticks flew out them with a storm. Yeah, definitely pre-90s if he's yeeting some of his employees. He just... Shut up. Get to work. Nowadays, if boss threw something at you, you'd be in trouble. This mess of a Chinese restaurant manager was a stubborn man who was willing to let minors work for him and didn't shy from violence, even if it was directed at the son of a lifelong friend. Sojiro felt that this is what Sparta must have been like. No. Sparta was worse. More badass. Much cooler. But no. Look, he's angry. We need to work harder. Wow, your nose got any browner yet? Me, I'm trying to make the most of my teens. Whatever, right? been meaning to ask. Are you the type that likes to go out on late night strolls, or more of a bicycle kind of guy? Not that it really matters, but... I'm always late when I get home after the restaurant, but that's not what you're asking, is it? I'm not really into walking when it's late out. Why do you ask? No reason, like... You just moved here, kind of weird, but don't you think that the town is dangerous? Not like people are bad or nothing. But, I mean, you know that we get 10 attacks, like, out of a slasher flick every year, right? And since they started, there's... Hold up. Oh. So yeah, this has to be before I was born. If the later stories take place after 2000, then yeah, this has to be after I was born. Or before I was born. But also, this dude is worried about 10 slasher flick killings a year. Dude's never lived in the ghetto. This poor boy. He watches way too much TV. I'm waiting for the sirens to start. I already heard one today. I can count on one hand by the... how many times I hear the sirens go off. Drive by. By the time lunch hits here. What's a slasher? You don't know that? No. It's like when a thief snatches someone's purse. No, bad example. Yeah, it is. It really is. Jason, Freddy, Chucky. It. 70s and 80s films. Horror films. Slashers. It's more like someone's killing to see if they can get away with it. A bunch of dead people in the woods near the suburbs. Real gnarly. That's why you shouldn't go out too late. The park in Misaki Hills is a hot spot for the weird stuff. Dude, this is a Tuesday for me. This is a Tuesday. This is the reason why most people in Texas have a gun. Because of shit like this. Haven't you heard about how they think the freak doing it in some chick with a sliced mouth? No, that's just nasty. That's not slasher. That's just nasty. That's just nasty. Nope. This is the first I heard of a sliced mouth woman. That's a yokai. Hold up, that's a yokai. What is her name? That's a yokai. Futakuchi Onna. Yeah, she wears a mask. Mask over mouth and slashed mouth. Kuchisake. Yeah, Kuchisake Onna. That's the one. Yeah, that's just a Japanese horror story. You should at least know this if you're living in Japan. That's one I know. It's a yokai. You'd hear that living in the mountains, wouldn't you? Well, like I said, slasher film shit. They say her mouth extends all the way to her ears. It's pretty old school kind of urban legend these days. Yeah, the slit-mouthed woman. It's a classic yokai story. How does he not know that one? That's something I feel like he'd know. Yeah. You're right, Amy. The one that asks, yeah. She wears a mask, and then she asks if you're pretty. You say yes. She takes it off and asks if you still are. He's just referencing the yokai. These poor parents sheltered this poor boy if he doesn't know who that is. This isn't just a homeschool child. This is a bubble child. No wonder he didn't know what a heater was. I feel bad for this man now. I feel so bad. Reminds me of my brother-in-law. Just a little bit. Just a little bit. Reminds me of my brother-in-law. You think so? You think it's more common in urban areas? Probably. That makes sense in a way. Sounds like a story that would belong more in urban than in a rural area, because a woman wouldn't just show up in a small town and say, "Do you think I'm pretty?" No, you get shot in a small town for that. At least in West Texas, it'd be like, red flag, I'm walking away. Bye, Felicia. In an urban area, yeah, that makes sense. How did it go again? There's a woman with a coat who asks, "Am I beautiful?" in the dead of night. Yeah, we're literally talking about the same person. Even if you say she is, she'll follow you home and kill you. Intense chicks like that are a no-no. It's like something you'd see in an American comic book. No! Even we don't do that! That's not even ours. That is so far from American. That would make sense, honestly, if it only takes place in cities and metro areas. That makes honest sense. That sounds really scary. Does she actually follow you home? There's actually a way to beat her, if I remember correctly. What's the way to beat her? Because you say no, she kills you. You say yes, she kills you. They say she crawls in through a window, squeezes her way in like a cockroach, and I told you not to utter a word in this kitchen. I'm gonna kill you, you little turd. The back of Kinomi's head exploded in pain with the impact of his boss's frying pan. Ow! Dude needs to go to the hospital now. Sojiro was reminded of just how dangerous this town could be. I'm gonna kill you. I'm gonna kill you. Yeah, right. I'd like to see him try. And what kind of boss is that anyways? This is a restaurant, ain't it? Well, maybe calling it that is too much. Is your head okay, Kinomi? It's nothing. People tell me I'm really tough, especially my head. That's not what they mean. That's not what they mean. Anyway, avoid the dark, okay? You look like you're sitting duck. You tell her you're in a hurry and you have somewhere important to be. That is the best way to get out of that situation. Just, sorry, I gotta go. I got a curfew. Mom and Dad are going to kill me if I'm late. By the way, is 10 victims per year a lot? Don't know. It probably isn't a lot, but it's totally ain't a few either. No, it's like... It's actually really small, unless you're in an itty-bitty town. Like, in a big city, 10 a year is not really that big. That's like a good year, honestly. This guy's dramatic. This guy is very dramatic. The real scary shit is that they're still out there somewhere since they haven't been caught. That's the scary part. Yeah, that's the scary part. He laughed cheerfully. Kinomi was probably trying to take the edge off his story, but the noble intention of his laugh was completely lost on Sojiro. His friendly warning was equally futile. Sojiro was simply impressed that Kinomi was able to laugh it off. On the way home, nobody ahead or behind, Sojiro proceeded through the dimly lit street when suddenly he turned to face an improbable sound. Itai! Ouch! Something stabbed him in the head and fell to the floor. He frowned. A small bird had apparently flown into the telephone pole before landing on his head. Birdie, no! The starling cleaned itself off and flew away. The falling of the bird and his desperate escape thereafter was unlike anything he had experienced in his life up until now. Most of the town folks would have seen the incident as unlucky, ominous, or even sinister, but Sojiro just nodded and went about his business. You must understand, what might have been at first for him was surely an everyday occurrence for these city folks. A bird hitting me in the head? No, a bird shitting on me? That's me at the beach. Let's go to the beach. Tadaima! Alice, are you here? I got some stuff from the arcade while on the way home from church. Isaya rice crackers. You want to share some? Her voice reverberated through the foyer, died in the color of the setting sun. This girl is way cheerier than she was like 15 minutes ago. It's after 5 in the afternoon when Aoko, still in her school uniform, cheerfully returned home. She had finished her student council duties and attended her monthly meeting with the church. Welcome back. I see that the meeting was as planned. The voice was coming from the school second floor. In contrast with Aoko and her boundless energy, a considerably calmer girl descended from above. There are some complaints, but all in all, it went well. Our problems are ours alone, so I decided not to get them involved. You okay with that, Alice? Yes. I'd ask for their help in a pinch, but they can't be trusted. We'll call them to clean up the mess as usual. Agreed. No one likes to have to keep looking over their shoulders. We can't fully commit to this if we're worried about what's going on elsewhere. Well, I can, but you don't have time for that, do you, Aoko? With the graceful sound of her steps, Alice entered the foyer. As she did, Aoko's eyes were directed toward the skylight above. The glass is kind of dirty. I wanted to discuss that after today's business is concluded, that is. Are you feeling okay, Aoko? You can rest if you're not. Oh, you don't have to be such a nag. I'm not stressed on anything. Today was pretty normal. Do I look that tired? The school activities went today were a breeze. At a glance, her school life might have seemed almost idyllic. Though, the more she thought about it, some headache-inducing incidents may have stood out here and there. And with some sincere introspection, Aoko might have recognized the signs of her own mental fatigue. But doing so would have further added to her stress.
Stop.
Okay, enough about that. I didn't come home just to stress out over school. What were we learning about today? Mesmerize basics, right? Wish. Let's get started. I feel like I could master anything today. Aoko focused on shedding her anger and stress. And headed upstairs with gusto. Aren't you coming? I thought we were going to do it in your room, Alice. The formerly dressed Alice nodded in slight dissatisfaction. Are you going to eat those Isaya rice crackers today, or... She looked at the freshly baked treats Aoko was holding. In the end, their lesson took place after Alice had her cup of tea. For an apprentice like Aoko, Alice Kuonji was the kind of roommate and teacher that was hard to come by. If she insisted that Aoko rest to preserve her health, Aoko had no choice but to comply. The lesson was over after 2 hours, so the two finished with the dinner they had prepared and decided to change of venue for where they would spend the last hours of the day. The sunroom was next to the drawing room. The east wing of the residence offered a view of the beautiful grounds. The proud Kuonji estate luxurious sunroom featured furnishings on par with those in the splendid drawing rooms. Meanwhile, it's going to be a jungle come next year's summer. The grounds outside had fallen into disrepair, neglected by the owner. Don't you have any landscaping toys lying around, Alice? Aoko took a step in the sunroom and poured some tea. I'm sure I could find one, but it would take some effort. Playing along with her roommate's joke, Alice made her to sit in her chair. Just as she caught sight of the box of chocolates on the table, her lovely eyes narrowed in a frown. Don't be like that. Today's screw-up was half your fault, you know. Maybe the rice crackers threw out software games, or maybe it was me being too aggressive that turned that wish into a gander, but still. We're down 6 pieces. We are? Wait, that's what you're upset about? Aoko's eyes stared intently at the box of chocolates. You could search the word and never find a finer selection of You could search the world and never find a finer selection of chocolates. The brand was 6-pence songs, apparently. So, what is it? Was it about the mirror you wanted to talk about? It's still in Misaki mode, right? Not mansion mode? Yes, the mansion can take care of itself for the time being. So I changed its target to Misaki City. Things have been cloudy since yesterday. Now, I know for certain that with each passing day, the forces arrayed against us grow. You mean there's more of those things? There's the one who was captured, and I've witnessed 2 other suspicious types. One in the city and one in the woods outside of town. Is it too much to ask that you could be wrong? Just this once? Which one is causing the biggest ruckus? The one in the woods. I'm getting close to capturing it, but it knows it's being watched. It's not taking the bait. I see. You want to go after it tonight? To go after it tonight? One simple suggestion that would change the course of her life forever. It was no overstatement to say that this was a roll of the dice that would decide whether she had the moxie to survive the experience of jumping out of the plane with a torn parachute. Aoko swallowed her hesitation and fear with a little tea. On the school's anniversary night, she declared that she had made up her mind, and from that time on, she would not waver. Alice welcomed her roommate's strength with the barest hints of regret. As someone who shared the same motivations as her, Alice was ultimately reassured by Aoko's resolve. Well, perhaps more than reassured. All in all, it had taken better part of a year, but finally Aoko had stepped out of Alice's shadow. The 2 partners now shared the same fate. Aoko was not the partner Alice had asked for, but a partner nonetheless. Strangers worlds apart, and even if they eventually would battle each other to the death using all they had inherited, it was only right they did it on equal terms. It was, at least for now, a cause for celebration over how far Aoko had come. Generous, but I'll find it on my own tonight. The time would be better spent practicing Mesmerize a little more. The park is under your jurisdiction, so I'll put you to work when the time comes. Alice did not so much as look at Aoko as she explained her reasons, the scale of the enemy she would face that night, her plans for Aoko. For in only 2 days from now, Aoko Awazaki would be reborn. Fine, whatever you say. Aoko finished her tea and stood up from the seat. I guess I'm practicing then. How did the first part go again? Be light and frail, nimble and fast. Tick-tock, tick-tock. There's no time to waste, right? No, you're missing the quiet part, Remember the weight of the air, the tremble of one's breast. Light lags behind while shadows pull ahead. Be careful, or you may find yourself in a state of unease. Yeah, I remember now. Now, if you'll excuse me, Aoko grabbed a piece of chocolate and popped it into her mouth. She waited before leaving Alice alone in silence. Alice stiffened the moment before slamming the box of chocolate shut as if it could serve to scold Aoko for snacking. Good morning. Time check 0000. 24 hours since last update. Running backup. Transmitting. Log. Commencing local scan. Running atmospheric analysis. Nitrogen nominal. Oxygen nominal. Argon nominal. Carbon dioxide nominal. Fifth theoretical factor, multiple anomalies detected. Local space-time discrepancy detected. Conclusion, contact, class 1, threat. Shifting perception range from subjective to objective. Shifting autonomous circuit to reserve power. Shifting diagnostic circuit to main power. Shifting view mode. IR filter inactive. I filter active. Now it begins. Initiating combat log. Oh, Master, preserve me from harm. They have an AI? Misaki City was a thickly wooded area. Urban development continued unabated, but Mother Nature still drew breath in its outskirts. Wise old trees had been turned into lumber. The leaves had begun to turn to mulch. Even though the birds who curiously tilted their heads had moved on, the verdure lived on, a testament to its enduring strength, until the time came that devouring light of civilization became powerful enough to encroach upon nature's mysterious domain. These woods were no exception. The outlying border between Misaki City and Misaki Hills had been left untouched. Though driven from their nest and dense here, wildlife continued to subsist even today, no longer able to return to the days before man. This was just like any other forest situated next to the town. Hey diddle diddle, the cat and the fiddle. Winter had arrived in the woods, the chill cut like a razor. The icy air so thick it could reach one's bones. Exposed cheeks stiffened, and wisps of breath formed swirls in the air before disappearing. It was 1 degree above freezing. The cold snap penetrated every nook and cranny of the woods, from the ground to the trees to the wildlife. The cow jumped over the moon. The little dog laughed. The forest allowed nobody entry during the day. During the winter, it willed the animals to slumber. The still evening air felt like a stagnant breath from the lingering dead. The forest consumed the moonlight, obscuring the sight of even the closest of precipices, and hastening the untimely doom of any soul unfortunate enough to become lost within. The only noise to be heard were the whisperings of the wind and the murmuring of the stream. The immortal darkness stifled any sense of life. Not the breath of an animal, much less that of a person, was drawn in the place. However, a figure in black, not of this place, skulked within. It cast the tiniest, frailest of silhouettes, like a small boat lost in a sea of fog. The trepidatious footsteps echoed through the woods. There exiting the veil of trees was the unmistakable likeness of a woman. To see such craft and the dish right away with the spoon.
来たぞ来たぞ。いるぞいるぞ。
Someone's here! Someone's here! There they are! There they are!
誰が誰が？
Who can it be? Who can they be? Someone!
お
Someone!
腹は減ったの？
Are you hungry?
そうなったさ。
I'm starving.
どっちが食べる？
Which one should we eat? Let's eat them both.
君は左手。
You take the
僕は
left.
右手。
You take the right.
歓迎しないと。
We must welcome them. We must entertain them.
何しろようやく楽しい。
After all, we don't often have guests.
ついでにお腹と脛骨も。
While we're at it, the stomach and tibia. It's not often we get to chew the fat. The shadows of the tree laughed ominously. A hallucination, an illusion, or perhaps something real. The shadow frolicked in time to the girl's pace.
さあさあさあさあ。もっと
Come,
奥へ。
come, deeper,
ここで
deeper.
大地は採掘に。
Did you remember to rig the
お腹
dice?
を色をでっと。
Loaded inners, limb
か
half.
じったエッジは。
Nibbled around the edges,
どうで
they
もい
be.
いけど管理
Just remember, don't roll the vital six. The girl knitted her eyebrows. This was Alice. This is Alice in that uniform. She heard voices and felt the presence of things that should not be, scary enough to frighten this particular girl, as if her tightly pursed lips betrayed not a hint of fear. The girl walked on her own volition. If she had truly felt fear, her legs would be frozen deep within the trees. She was perfectly aware of the two humanoid figures stalking her through the still night
見
air.
たぞ見たぞ。
I saw them. I saw them. They're coming. They're coming.
やめろ。
Give up.
もう帰れない。
There's going to be back. There's no going
こん
back.
なに教えてあげたのに。
We warned you.
言えないよ
It's your fault for staying. The girl halted her steps. The racket from the accompanying voices died in turn. The babbling brook suddenly sounded like a crackling fire. And then, across the shallow stream, something appeared that should not exist in the city, much less these woods.
こんばんは。
Good
話のわかる
evening.
人はいる。
I don't suppose I could speak with your master. The girl addressed them calmly. These men, with their Glasgow grins, creeped towards her like two slugs.
そう。ただの
I see. Simple graveyard
監視だけ
wards,
が仕事なの。
sent to be lookouts. My mistake. I should have entrusted this to Aoko.
けど、
However, the one grinning man stood still. The other, shaking violently as if unable to contain himself any longer,
青
turned
子
toward
にはま
the
だ荷が
girl.
重いわね。
Aoko still has a
そん
lot
な
on her
姿
plate.
だけど、
Although you're far
あな
from
た
the
たちは一
part,
人前の
you
魔
seem
術
to be
師なんだし。
on the level of a fully fledged mage. Her black outfit stirred. In her right hand she held a vitreous cat, darker than the deepest night. The two Glasgow men let out a yelp of caution and incoherent fear. It was at this moment that they finally bared their
さような
intent and
ら、
emotion.
お客様。
Farewell, my
きっ
guests.
と一瞬だろうから。
Since they will take
O別れだけ言っておくわ。
but a moment, I offer only a goodbye. The two shuddered at her words. They had no mouths, no ears, or brains to begin with. For creatures like these, words were redundant. All that exquisite was the present. For these soulless creatures, fears and hopes were nothing more than an unimaginable future. Then what could be this feeling of foreboding they felt? This spine-chilling miracle that would rip them to pieces not moments from now.
さあ、
Come
ご
then,
っこ遊びをしましょう。
puppets, let us play
Onion
make-believe. Her song sounded like a bell echoing through the white woods. The girl's voice vanquished the frost that had gripped the trees. Then,
いやいや、ずいぶん待たされた。
come on, don't keep us waiting.
赤ずきんだと
Come on, It's time for Little Red Riding Hood. The curtains open on Diddle Diddle and the banquet of the night. In confusion, one slit-mouthed man swooped towards the girl. In fear, the other fled into the woods behind him. The deformed human darted forth, kicking up waters as it rushed the girl. She already knew what this fiend was. The grinning figure had scissors for hands and a demon's heart. It was a wretch who kidnapped children mercilessly, rendering them into pieces. Tweedle. Leave it to us! It's finally our turn! The piglets bound and rebound like paddle balls. The stuffed animals, over 3 feet in length, jumped and weaved their way between the trees. Even with these strange creatures before him, the grinning man did not so much as blink. He raised his arms, but what emerged from his coat sleeves were not the human appendages you would expect. In their place, fiendish cleavers more than 1.5 feet in length. These appendages, which had torn so much of their prey to pieces, sliced cleanly through the flying pig skulls. His limbs froze in place. The pigs' bodies were sliced perfectly in half. And then, bisected from head to tail, the pig's innards became alligator jaws and clamped down the grinning man's arms. From fingertips to shoulders, they were swallowed whole, and it was all it took to rob the man of control from his entire body. Another shiver of fear. These were no mere pig familiars. Immediately he realized that these were stapler monsters disguised as mere pigs. I got him! No, I got him! Oh, but too bad Master has no words, no emotion, no interest. In the end, it doesn't really matter who did it! London Bridge is rolling down. London Bridge is broken down. Impossible. Its presence murmured 3 times. Not possible. Not possible. Not possible. Talking pigs were one thing. Even having one's arms chopped off was in the realm of occupational hazard. In an instant, the wood was enveloped in a dense wave of magical energy. Though vexing, it was still impressive. None of these facts were particularly extraordinary. These rare familiars, their bizarre attacks, the sheer innate magical energy to overwhelm others. He had experience with all these things. His employer was skilled enough to achieve all of this as well. However... What now? What now? How long should we hold him like this? Even a blink of an eye is too long. Let's take an arm. I'll give you a good price if you'll pay me in pounds. What were they? What were they? Not vessels, not living creatures, not beings powered by magic circuits. Even though only his arm had been bitten, none of his body would move. It was nothing like being bound for a weekend. It felt more like he had become words written in a book fated to keep to the page. And the grinning figure deformities indicated he had overcome numerous curiosities and monstrosities, illusions, enthrallment, compulsions, freezing, putrefactions, and even petrifications, a power granted to only the pinnacle of mystic eyes. From the poisons to magecraft, he had weathered a great deal, but this was something different altogether. The penalty that bound him now was based on different principles, from blood, flesh, oxygen, or heat. It was an unknown restraint that followed no rules he knew. Indeed, though it was terrifying to admit, it was as if he had encountered something alien to everything in this world. The bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down. London Bridge is broken down, my fair lady. Fang sank into his left and right shoulders. For the first time in his form, He felt rage seethe up inside him. The basis of all things had to be absolute. All mystics, all things bizarre obeyed some set of laws, but these pigs ignored this, along with his dignity. After 3 days, you weaken. After 6, you drown. After half a year, you'll be a wretched skeleton. Sorry to be rude, but we'll just kill you now. A howl. Though he had no voice, he let out an exasperated scream. Huh? Not a convenient function to be able to detach your arms. What an unparalleled warrior! Talkative pigs fell into the stream. An exasperated scream was the sound of a figure tearing his arms from their sockets. Armless, he rushed the girl. Useless swine. I'll see you to be punished later. He may have lost his mangled arms, but the object of his malice. A mystic eye to pierce the heart of its victims. A magic circuit designed to stop a beating heart. It was beautiful in its simplicity, a point-blank range. It was the equivalent of an unavoidable shotgun blast. But tragically, that eye was all he had. Build it up with wood and clay, wood and clay, wood and clay. Build it up with wood and clay, my fair lady. He failed to realize that her song had changed. For the giant, the earth-shattering strike was akin to the act of shooing away an insect. Its green, verdant spines pulsed. Oaken bark covered its body, hardened sufficiently over centuries to repel even a chainsaw. On its forehead, inscribed in a manner of colors, were the words Emeth. Though judging from its misspelling, the inscription was purely decorative. The Thames Stroll. It also went by the moniker Falling Down. On alternatively, the Great Bridge, admired in different forms, it was the first of 4 miracles. Thames, please take care of the other one. The giant responded to the girl's words. With roots rent deep into the earth, it raised its left arm to the heavens without moving a step. Elsewhere in the forest, the grinning figure who had chosen to flee the battle was running through the night forest at full speed. Record and provide a detailed description of the enemy. Those were the orders assigned to him. He poured all his energy into escaping the forest with which he had become so familiar. In case of emergency, the plan was for one to challenge the enemy, while the other made a tactical retreat in order to report to their master. He dashed through the forest. Though gripped by fear, he was confident in his ability to perform the mission he was designed for. Nothing could catch him in these woods. Even the wolves could not track him. His bird-like legs thumped as they kicked the ground. Perhaps it was his creator's eccentric taste that dictated their form when optimizing them for running. The grinning man could reach a maximum speed of 45 miles per hour, well past the limit of any bipedal creature. After securing a distance of several miles, he turned around to confirm his safety. There was no sign of pursuit. His crescent-shaped mouth, nay, eye, slackened in relief. And then... After facing forward once more, he looked up to lock eyes with his doom.
London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down.
The London Bridge is broken down, broken down, broken down. In the distance he could hear the dark rhymes of Mother Goose. Countless vines extended from the ground. They formed into monstrosity that conjured up images of an arched bridge, something resembling a giant arm. Bridge is broken down, broken fair lady. Final report. Survival unable to complete. Analysis unable to complete. Transmission unable to complete. Ending session. Oh, Master, preserve me from...
この身を守り
I think we're about done here. Well done, Thames. You can return now. Hopefully, our next encounter will be more worth our time. The girl turned on her heel. The invaders who had set up shop in the woods were eliminated. She had no interest in whether they had been good or evil, nor how many victims they had claimed. The shackles of civic society held no sway over her. This way was the way of a pure-blooded witch, the way of a mindster. Hey, what about us? What about us? Help me! Get this arm out of my teeth! You really should move while we're eating. Don't tell us you don't need pigs that can't fly. Well, we'll do a better job next time. No, we're nothing but screw-ups. Yeah, you owe us at least one compliment before the end. The girl let out a sigh and stepped into the stream. She removed her gloves and dipped her slender fingers into the ice water. I told you not to roll sixes, but I suppose it is the only number you can roll. There was no response to her melancholic tone. In place of the once boisterous pigs were two black dice now sitting in the palm of her hand. As the girl was about to say something to the scattered remains around her, she realized something that made her put a hand to her mouth. The farewell is over. Should I have asked them if they had any last words? Her slender pale fingers traced her lips as if reluctant to part from them. Sighing again, she calmly left the dark woods the same way she had entered. Ooh, it is 8 o'clock, which means it's time for me to log off. Oh. I'm gonna dip out and relax. Good night, everyone.